So now let's go back to Chris Mathews. Chris Mathews is going to play some of this game too about Chuck Todd just played. Chris Mathews, let's see what he has to say about Bernie Sanders' demands. Now let's remember Bernie Sanders' demands. He wants open primaries. He wants the new change at the DNC. He wants to get rid of super delegates. Same-day voter registry. He wants to make it easier for people to become Democrats and participate in their elections. So let's hear here's what Chris Mathews had to say. He had on Ed Rendell. Let's hear.
So the Democratic Party can only recommend. And I think most of the reforms he's talking about are correct, are right. And I think we should get...
So there you go. There's super insider, super mainstream establishment guy, Ed Rendell, says, I think most of the things he's saying are true. Which you know what? Is what every person in the Democratic Party either believes outwardly or inwardly. Everybody knows what Bernie Sanders is saying is true. Everything he says is what you believe if you're even a little bit liberal. So that's the thing that's been driving us crazy, is to watch supposed Democrats scream and yell at a guy who couldn't be more of a liberal for 12 months. So that's the problem. That's what's been driving us crazy. It's like, no, the guy stands up for what you're all supposed to be standing for. So Ed Rendell, and here's Ed Rendell. He's like, hey, everything he said makes sense. Let's see how Chris Mathews handles it.
Behind him.
Before I get to Joe, I want to ask you one last one. This is the one about open primaries. Now, they benefited Bernie, of course, and people like what benefits them, because young people who hadn't registered as Democrats, who are independents or hadn't registered, they can vote in open primaries. Do you think Pennsylvania, for example, is a pretty old state in terms of politics? Do you think that fits to let people who are not even Democrats pick not Democratic nominees? Does that work culturally?
Well,
Culturally. Did you hear what he just said? He just said, now this thing about letting young people who haven't registered as Democrat come in and actually participate in our party because they're excited about one of our candidates. Does that work culturally? Culturally. What? Does that work? You mean letting other Americans who get excited about a candidate running for your party's nomination, you mean letting other Americans come in and participate in your party? Does that work culturally? That's the craziest.
Not in a culture of corruption. I mean, it's like he's just embracing the bubble culture.
Yeah. What do you, culturally? Like somehow.
Are Americans prepared to
somehow
violate
regular,
tribalism or something? Yeah,
somehow regular salt of the earth Pennsylvanians just don't go for those young kids coming in mucking up their primaries. Oh, the kids today with the hair and the clothes. Am I right, Ed? Well, let's see what Ed says back.
Well, I'm in favor of same-day registration, and
bam, right in your fucking establishment face, Chris Mathews. I'm in favor of it. Oh, you mean you're in favor of more democracy? You're in favor of making it easier for people to vote in America? What the fuck is wrong with you, Ed? This is about consolidating power for the wealthy and 1%, which I happen to be a part of. And I'm not going to bring you back on this stupid show if you keep disagreeing with me like this. That's what I'm doing Chris Mathews' inner dialogue.
Same-day registration would obviate having to have open primaries, because then you just go in and say, I'm registering as a Democrat. Boom.
And you could change under that system. Under that system, could you change from R to D or from independent to D?
On the same day. Yep.
Well, that obviates it all. But great.
Well, so that obviously drives Chris Mathews crazy. You mean you could just come in? Let's say if you've been a Republican and you want to come vote for this guy, you can just come and vote? In America? You could just vote?
I think his logic, if you can call that, is there's going to be massive deception on the part of Republicans to turn a Democratic primary in favor of a candidate that their Republican candidate would want to run against.
Yes.
And win over.
So the theory is that if you let independents come vote in your primary, people who haven't been Democrats for a while, what will happen is they'll come in and they can vote for the idea is they'll vote for a less of a liberal. They'll vote for more of a centrist. That's the theory. But it turns out when it works the other way, when they come in to vote for more of a liberal, it freaks the establishment out.
Yeah.
So that's the idea behind that. But
does that ever really happen?
I don't think that is the history of that ever. That's an idea that people cross over to pick the weaker candidate to run against their party. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I don't think that has ever been proven to have happened.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think people do that.
I don't think people
some
go out.
threaten to do it,
Yeah.
and some people do it. But it's like
People usually more times than I don't know. I have to see some data on this, but my hunch is that people who bother to go vote, when they get there, are going to vote for the person they like.
Yeah.
I think people to bother to vote, you're not going to bother to vote to go vote for some guy who you think might be the second best of the other party that you might want to have your guy voted. It just doesn't. I just don't think that happens. So that was nice to see. Ed Randell, boom, right in the kid. So it's a great way. Establishment media finding any way they can dismiss Bernie Sanders. And look, establishment MFers pushing right back on him.